Okay. For some reason, my board's not working. It's a bit early to figure that out. I'll figure it out during the broadcast, maybe. Good morning. It is 10 a.m., 73 degrees, mostly sunny, November 6th, 1950. Not 1950s, 2020s, 2023 to be exact. November 6th, 10:01 a.m., November 23. This morning, and what I do on these broadcasts, good morning, Tim, is it's Monday morning, beginning of the week, and I just plunge right on into the deep shit. And yeah, it's long format. I know a lot of creators do short format because that's what's getting more views. But I'm less interested in more views and longer watch times. That's why I have a shitload of watch hours. I have 14,000 watch hours. All that means I studied marketing in college, and all that really means is that, and this was before social media. I had to learn that after. Afternoon beach. What's up, bitch? It's good to see these faces. I wasn't here last Monday. My therapist last week. I've been going through some EMDR, so today's subject's going to be pretty. I don't know, off the cuff, I guess. It's been pre-planned by the AI, but um, so, but it's an interesting subject. It is an interesting subject. How to leave, how to get out of a coercive situation, group, uh, religion. All right, so with that in mind, I'm gonna have to cue my source manually because for some stupid reason the board isn't working today. That's what happens when you don't do the show for 1 week, I guess. Here we go. Let's start. All right. Boom. Here we are. I'm in the bubble. And that's a painting that someone did underneath me of a picture of Foxy Moon, New Orleans local, from Southwest Louisiana, same as me. And then me playing bass. She's singing her ass off. I was playing my bass off. We were playing a song called Hot Tamale Baby. And it's an old song from it's a southern hold on, let me look it up. Hot Tamale Baby. Hot Tamale. It's too early. See, Buckwheat Zydeco does it, but that's not the original writer. Whoa. Okay. Marcia Ball. Marcia Ball. How could I forget that? The Balls. All Louisiana people. Slidell. Hot Tamale Baby. Hot Tamale Baby. Anyways, it's a very high energy song. and someone snapped a photo, and one of the other artists that hung around the community saw the photo on Facebook and painted it and posted it. Um, it's very impressionistic. It was a quick. I don't know how long it took to make. Anyways, it's not what we're here to talk about. And my coffee cup here has 3 lines, and the top line says unable to communicate in full sentences. The second one says slightly more coherent but still unable to hold a conversation. I'm just right there with the coffee. And then at the bottom it says you may speak now. Now I take that for myself and usually for others too, because early in the morning, if someone give me some shit, give me some attitude, anything, and attitude is very subjective to me in the morning, because I am I have this real weird morning thing, and I'll bite your head off in the morning for seemingly no reason. Okay, so I was looking at the topic here. I use AI for everything, basically. I am not 20 people or 50 people, but a general pre-trained transformer, a GPT, which is what all of the other AIs are based off of. There's like 6 or 7 AIs that I use for different things, and they're all based off general pre-trained transformers. So except for I think stable diffusion. So the topic for today is how to leave a coercive high control group. So I take this channel. I had the AI take. Now there were some videos that it was missing, but a lot of those I'd covered already in the deprogramming or ding thing that I normally do on Mondays. This is a feature. Today is a feature, I would say. And I'm sure Cynthia dropped the coffee link somewhere. It is not expected at all for you to give me money, buy me Bugattis or coffees or anything like that. It is not necessary. I made this a public broadcast, so even people who aren't subscribing can watch. Because if I'm talking about how to leave a high coercive control group, I want it to be public, so that whoever may be watching from an alt account or a dummy account, if someone were able to do that, who is in a coercive group where their devices are being monitored in some form or fashion, then they can watch without having to click subscribe. And I think I'm going to keep the video that way. Then I started thinking about, well, what kind of different coercive control situations are there? And I guess having been a Scientologist, but more so having been in a highly controlling family group. So I got, I guess, a double helping of it, because, I should mention that in the future I'm going to talk about the EMDR that I've been doing and the effectiveness of it. I guess all I can say right now, without getting into the crazy, amazing details and things that did happen, is that, like, it's a proven therapy. at this, check the sources, check out different sources to see if it's a proven therapy. I mean, you can even call places, say, you do EMDR, does it work? You know, tell me about it. If you talk to the right person, they'll tell you. But they don't know how it works. And it doesn't work on everybody. It doesn't work on everybody. But it works on most people, about half. Um, and it is a very effective way. It is not necessarily pleasant, kind of like a surgery, like emotional. Like when you get a surgery, it takes a while to heal. Sometimes surgeries you're down for 2 weeks, a month, but I guess it depends on how good a shape you're in when you go into surgery. Um, and this is kind of like, you know, healing on the inside. Your brain actually is a thing that's uh, changing, uh, and so it's a. I'd say it's very effective. You just need to be able to have the ability to cope while you're, like, if you're working a job or something and trying to do EMDR, uh, like some, and handle some pretty heavy trauma, and you don't have the support you really need. I could give you an example, like firefighter or something, you know, where they went and like, say, a volunteer firefighter group went and, you know, had to try to get, God forbid me for saying this, I don't want to, you know, we can speak the truth into reality, but God forbid, yes, God forbid someone who's a volunteer firefighter goes to a house and can't save a child, and the child burns, and the rest of the fire department, you know, they're like, volunteers shouldn't be trying to do that anyway, probably without proper training. So that would be a pretty traumatic experience for that guy, and he would have a social group around him that were his peers, possibly friends and stuff. That, you know, this may cause some tension, some resentment, um, stuff like that. So if the guy who's the volunteer goes and does EMDR, um, and has no support from his group, um, it probably, you know, would be very difficult, uh, and possibly ineffective. So in that situation, like, volunteers should just probably leave the fire department, handle the trauma, and then figure out the rest. But that's just not always possible. Like, I'm incredibly lucky in that I have the space to do it and the support to do it. Um, and and it is astounding how much the brain remembers from trauma, because our memory is very bad. It's very unreliable. 70%, yeah, rounded it off, 70% of eyewitness accounts of crimes where people are convicted. Well, I don't know if it's convicted, but 70% of eyewitness accounts related to crime are wrong. However, the more traumatic something is, the more detail in the memory people have. So, if you have really vivid memories of these events, um, and you start reprocessing them through EMDR, they explode into your brain. So the left hemisphere is talking to the right hemisphere, and they're sorting it out because you're getting PTSD responses from uh, from events that have long passed that you don't even like. Your left brain's like, this is over, it's done, I don't even trip about that. But your body, in the right side of your brain, that hemisphere, is communicating with the lizard brain, with the hypothalamus, uh, and I need my brain map. There's another part. Um, I need to drink more coffee. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. It's Monday. I think this was probably a good idea, even though I didn't want to really get up and do anything because of all of this stuff that's coming up with the EMDR. Uh, oh, you witness, damn right, the body keeps the score. In this case, yeah, it's a part of your brain, and the brain runs the body. So, when you start reprocessing this stuff, uh, whew, it's, I can only describe it from my perspective, which is not going to be what anyone else experienced. So it's all very much a unique individual experience. That's why it probably doesn't work on everybody. It just works on about half people. So getting out of I was thinking, so I looked at the topic, getting out of a coercive control group. And of course, one of the first things that would come up would be Scientology. De facto, I've already, done a shitload of content on this stuff. I started in 2015, and it's like long format. Aaron used to do long format too, and it's for rewatching. And you can, broadcasts I like because I can respond and react with those of you that are here. Primal instincts are powerful. Good morning, Mock. Mock mir doch egal. Bonjour. Yeah, I like the broadcast format, but I'm not changing my. I can't really. The small stuff I can do clippings. If I happen to say something, I can clip stuff. But I've got a mountain of editing, and no AI can help me with that. This has to be done by a human. So, I actually thought about my family as a highly coercive group that I had to get out of, my immediate family, because I had to get out. I've had to get out of this situation more than once, where I have to take someone who was a part of my immediate family in my immediate life, and leave that group, leave that situation, because it was very coercive, and it's not healthy. It's toxic, and just about all of the horrible things you can imagine happening in a coercive group like the LDS Church or Scientology can happen in any coercive not any coercive situation, but extreme coercion. Situations where there's extreme coercion among family or friends, religion, gaming, believe it or not. Yes, gaming I'm not. I get the feeling that most of y'all who tune in to listen to me yak about whatever I'm doing, talking about, whatever the topic is. Um, for a long time, it's Scientology, and of course, this all would definitely apply. But like, not a lot of gamers are. At least not that if to show of hands, if you're a gamer um, that has played an MMO, or if you even know what MMO is, I would almost say show of hands who knows what an MMO is. But there have been gaming cultures, and still and there has to still be. The bigger ones have been kind of obliterated and squashed, thankfully, because uh, there's a lot of sociological studies and psychology studies going on with regard to technology, and this is sort of like a squish it before it grows, kill it before it grows type of thing. I've definitely at one point was active in that. There was a gaming cult that I joined called Fist of the Empire. I started my own gaming cult, and um, and then that got rebranded to a different thing. But it was some basically I sold the cult to someone else. He took power, usurped the power. He David Miscaviged me, whatever. Um, and then in the Eve Online, there's a massive group called Goon Swarm that is a cult. Uh, has ties to some really nasty things, IRL, which means in real life. And they're in a reformation period right now where the main leader has been replaced. Um, and it's just, we'll see. But let me make this chat bigger so I can see what y'all be saying. All right, cool. So, yeah, I thought about coercive control. First thing I thought about was, yeah, Scientology, sure. How to get out of that. But also how to get out of family coercion, friends. Peer pressure this isn't what I'm talking about. Peer pressure is one thing. Peer coercion is a whole other thing. In the religion, Scientology, gaming, and MLMs. There's actually quite a lot of that going on right now with crypto. If you trade crypto, you've been trading crypto for years, and you're probably not watching this stream. You're probably on a yacht somewhere. Like crypto scams and MLMs are everywhere. That's the new big thing. So don't do the crypto anymore. That's my advice, anyways. Caveat emptor. Everyone here know what that means. Lisa used to play a lot of MMOs, but she doesn't communicate with people. Well, there are groups that are cool with that. Obviously, because you played for years. And I've played with a lot of players like you. Hell, I might have played something with you. I don't know what you played. But I'm sure that you've noticed that in MMOs there are these little cliques, groups. And some of them are, benign. They're just like, we're the The knights who say knee. Or we're the people's front of Judea. We're the Judea's front of the people. No, we're the people's Judean front. But then you'll see groups that are highly organized, like little bees in a game. And these are people controlling their in-game avatars, but they're doing it in a very organized fashion. Sometimes like an army or a diplomacy group or a role-playing group. Bring me a shrubbery. I must have a shrubbery. We are the knights who say, "Nee." The knights who say, "Nee." Yes, and we require a shrubbery. Hey, look at me being on point Monday morning. This is another reason, a totally personal reason why I do broadcasts on Monday morning is because I hate the morning, and Monday is like, it's Monday. Fuck, it's Monday. Got a whole week to get through. And not that that's bad, but first thing in the morning, I'm kind of like grabbing for the bottom of the bag, so to speak, in my brain. Like, come on, think. It's Monday. Start thinking. Get your brain working. Doesn't the meatier, the better. Okay, so let's just start with Scientology since this is not SPTV. And if you want to help me out, there's my coffee link at the bottom. Last broadcast, I got to thank whoever sent me $50. That was very helpful. So, like, I'm not in the negative right now. So that's awesome. Thank you. As I said, it is not expected, but it is always appreciated. So in Scientology, if you're trying to leave this coercive group, this is something I've learned over the years. I was in ethics trouble a lot while I was in Scientology. I felt like that was a horrible thing for years. That I was in ethics all the time. I was a bad member. Even after leaving, I was like, God, I could have done better. I was so out ethics. And indeed, I've spoken with other exes who carry that view long after they leave. Like, people who went to their comevs, which is a tribunal, to basically state your crimes, real or imagined, because fair game, Hubbard says, if you can't find the dirt, manufacture it. So you go to this tribunal and they throw all that in front of you, and if you make it past even the KSW. So, like, it's funny. There was an ex-member I spoke to who went to a comev, and the very first point on keeping Scientology working, which is they start this whole comev with KSW, and they say whatever it is, knowing. Let's look at it. This is worth pulling up. KSW, Scientology. I mean, I have my hard sell pack, but whatever. Okay. Point number 1, having the correct technology. And so they asked this person, are we in agreement on that? And that person said, no. No, I don't believe we are. And that was the, and she just kind of they looked at her like, "Are you serious?" And she just laughed, and that was the end of the comment for that person. Hmm. Welcome, Barb. It's morning in New Orleans. I'm drinking coffee, and I finally made it past the middle point, which means I'm slightly more coherent, but still able to hold a conversation. So, in Scientology, leaving Scientology, Coercive Group. Well, there are going to be things, and being that this is a public broadcast and will remain a public broadcast, unless for some reason I have to remove it. There are people who have assumed and commented on Aaron's channel that I was paid off by Scientology or influenced by Scientology to remove my videos. Now, I will say that I took my videos down to stop being noisily investigated, and that did happen. Um, and I have witnesses. You know, um, I think that if they know your family is already, like, if they can create problems for your family without having to be directly involved, they'll do that. But this was just people following me, and I got really tired of it, and because I was going through so much already, and that's exactly when you would want to do that and fair game someone that way, because you want to make them more paranoid, more isolated. You know, the whole uh, I guess mantra of of it would be, they want you to kill yourself. They want you to disappear. So if they have any information about what you're currently going through, and if you're sharing it like I did, publicly, um, they're gonna wait until things are bad, and then pour it on hard and thick as possible without getting into any legal trouble. This is all legal stuff they do. Um, out ethics. Yeah, yeah. So I was out ethics a lot in Scientology, which I know now means that it's a good thing. It was pretty good that I was out ethics. But I think that some of the what they call ethics handlings, uh, I did some things that you know I would that I regretted, like disconnecting. My first disconnection that I did. It's still, you know, it's sad that I did that. It was wrong that I did that. Um, but it's also sad, you know. It affected quite a few people. My brother, uh, my friend Jeremy, who moved out to California with us, and of course the person that I disconnected from. Yeah. So that kind of stuff, if someone wants you to not talk to somebody, right? Tell you a story. There was this husband and wife, and this husband wanted, he was very jealous, wanted his wife to stay at home instead of hanging out uh, with the bouncer she was friends with. And they were all like, it was very frequent occasion where they, would all be, well, the husband would be around the bouncer, and the wife would want to go see the husband play. But the wife would hang out with the bouncer. Well, the husband forbids her to hang out with the bouncer. Forbidden. And then the bouncer dies. And the wife reaches out to another friend, for some emotional support, whatever. And the husband encourages that and says, "Oh yeah, she needs friends. Yeah, she needs friends. I haven't let her have friends. I've just kept her so cooped up. It's been all about me." And the husband's or saying all of these things to the friend that the wife reached out to. And the husband even says, "Hey, go spend some time with her, on my dime, whatever." Okay. But the friend doesn't really. It just met, had a coffee, wasn't anything, didn't even, use the wife's and husband's money. And just talks. Well, the wife says, I'm ready to leave him. Ready to leave him. Okay. She explains that he's been cutting her off from her friends, and has been for years. Very controlling, very coercive, very charismatic. The husband is a singer, charismatic singer, and well known in the community. Knows some people. And so the friend, I hope you understand what I'm trying to do here, because I'm drinking. It's Monday morning. I'm drinking my coffee. There are no guarantees in life. So what I'm trying to illustrate through this story is how a person could leave a coercive situation. Friends. In this case, this falls under the category of friends. I'll get back to the Scientology bit. We'll kind of circle around, jump back and forth, and look at some resources. Maybe some statistics and information. So the friend hangs out. They do the hangout, and then the wife goes home, and friend goes home. Husband calls the friend. Well, how did it go? I mean, friend says she wants to leave you. Husband starts crying and weeping and telling this friend that, you're my lifeline to my wife. You're my lifeline to my wife. You're my best friend. Well, the thing is that maybe they knew each other and were acquaintances, but like that's about it. So the friend meets the wife again, and say they meet up same place, whatever. And you know, she's already kind of made up her mind, and uh, she's going to go through with it. She's going to make plans to get separated and file for divorce. Um, and then makes I guess what you'd call a pass at the friend. And while it may have been hard for the friend to resist, they resisted that because they didn't want to get involved in a messy situation. And just was trying to be a friend. So the wife goes back, and the husband calls the friend again. Hey, I'm going to fix everything. I'm going to fix everything. I'm going to therapy. Okay, great. Get another call. This husband calls the wife's friend and says, I want to meet you after therapy. And they meet after therapy, after the husband's therapy. And the husband threatens the friend, says, I know what you're doing, and you're lucky that you didn't do anything with my wife, otherwise I would hurt you. Okay. So the wife in this situation is in a coercive relationship. She's not happy. She's isolated. Lord only knows what she's told and how she's told to think. Hi, Martha. Hey, Lydia. Good morning, Brian. Witness says, isn't channel management your own business? Don't listen to the negative Nancy's demanding perfection. Fucking men. Amen. Yeah. It's my house. And y'all are welcome here anytime. So I thought of that story because I want to think about, try to anyways, what a person in that situation could do. Now, she had a plan, and she started enacting it, but the husband goes to therapy, and let's just say it's one of these macho therapists, I don't know, Tony Robbins style or something, grab life by the horns kind of shit, manifest your reality, and to be honest, there's a lot of truth to all of that stuff, but you know, ain't no way in hell I'm paying whatever the tickets to go see Tony Robbins are. I won't even pay $50 to see Bruce Hamilton in Southwest Louisiana. No one knows who that is, but he was a motivational speaker for years. And he's very good, and he's very entertaining. He started out as a animal show. He had talking parrots and all kind of cool stuff. And incredibly successful guy. Incredibly successful around here. He's basically the Tony Robbins of the South in Louisiana. So yeah, there's a lot of useful information and all that. The but sometimes there are therapists, and I'll just say, you know, how I feel about it. I think it's pretty unethical, not in Scientology terms, but in just real life terms. If one is going to cultivate a system of ethics, I don't think it would. I don't think it would be ethical to practice to have a psychology practice wherein you target someone or your clients are people who are uh, abusive, uh, megalomaniacs or egomaniacs or uh, potentially uh, NPD, you know, or someone with a lot of N traits. Um, and yeah, I want to. There's so many different uh, attributes other than when I say there's so many other attributes that pertain to the type of person that will coercively control, abuse, manipulate people. And it's also important to understand that we all have uh, these attributes. However, there are lots of attributes, not just narcissism, but they all have varying levels. And someone with high traits in an area um, can respond to therapy, but sometimes they won't. Most of the time, they won't, especially in NPD or like if they even get diagnosed. It's very hard to diagnose that, and it's also a pretty serious thing to diagnose. Um, but the husband and wife, the wife enacted her plan and separated, and she was living in the house. The husband now is in therapy, in some kind of power therapy, um, in which he's going to essentially coerce even more, but correct. Coerce, but correct. Like, change the way that you're coercing. Try to scale back on the coercion. Like, stand your ground with the friend and say, you can't be friends with that person anymore. And then do damage control. And so there was an opportunity there for the person to leave and they didn't. And that that scenario played out over and over throughout my entire childhood with my mother. You know, she had opportunities, but you know, she didn't have options. And it's an interesting combination of things to have. It's quite stressful and produces a lot of anxiety and a lot of blocking, emotional blocking, because like if there's something, I take my meds. I do recommend medication and meditation, either or, but studies show that when combined, they're more effective. So I say medication and meditation, but you know, if you can get by without medication, fucking awesome. Take your meds. Okay, so that was an example of a sad example. I'm sorry. It's not meant to, I'm not trying to bring anybody down. Power therapy? Yeah. Lydia von Stretchclaw. So the psychologist the husband was seeing was an unethical psychologist. Someone will kind of like an attorney, kind of like some attorneys, and as it happens, this is one of those kinds of kinds of psychologists that would be an expert witness in court. So, um, does that make sense? I hope. Um, if not, I'll go a little further with it. But if you have a response to that, in Scientology, I believe that doubt is the way out. Doubt is the way out. You do your doubt condition. Um, doubt formula. Scientology. They're going to have a different version than what I have because, David likes to change it all the time. But the formula is inform oneself honestly of the intentions and activities of the group without listening to opinions or rumors. Just what are the facts? Just the facts, ma'am. Dragnet. Bom bom. Bom 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 bom. Wake and bake. Me too. I'll take another rip at 11 and then we'll finish the hour out. It's Monday, 11 o'clock, New Orleans time, Crescent City, broadcasting from Delta Gold Media, Broadmoor Studio. We got a new neighbor who has a really loud ass motorcycle. I need to find, it would be nice to be able to clear this room out for the kids if they want to come visit and then have this somewhere else. I don't know. Examine the statistics, second part of doubt. Examine the statistics of the individual project or organization. So look at what they're producing, in other words. Look at what they make. What did they make? How do you apply that to the Catholic Church? How do you apply that to your family? Well, it's easier in Scientology because a Scientologist would have already done the doubt formula a bunch of times. But what I'm saying is that this is a frequent window that you get in Scientology to leave. It is a frequent opening in the portal out of Scientology. It opens frequently. But the problem is that with groupthink and constant coercion, and the way these control groups behave, it's reinforced. You have all kinds of behavioral reinforcement. So you can't really do this formula effectively when you're in that environment because there is a constant bias being placed upon you that reinforces your own. So, confirmation bias. But this is a frequent opening. It's like a portal out of Scientology. You could just, boom, step right over. If you can just do that first one, inform oneself honestly of the actual intentions of that group. Because when you do that and you read about what Scientology does, what they've done litigiously, legally, to personal individuals, to families, you will find that they're not very good. They're not very ethical. And this is coming from the ethics book. This is why it's such a paradox. So, and then you examine the statistics, which is sort of taking stock of what they've done. And then you decide on the basis of the greatest benefit for the greatest number of people in areas of your life, whether it should be attacked, harmed, prevented, or helped. Now that one's a little harder because you have to now decide if you're going to attack it. Is it bad enough to warrant an attack? Number two, is it bad enough to warrant it to be harmed? Number three, is it bad enough to warrant being prevented? Or is it good enough to be helped? And it says, to work this out, look over what would happen to every part of your life. Yeah. Yeah. This had to have been rewritten. Every part of your life, your personal life, your husband or wife or family, groups that you belong to, mankind, living things, physical objects, and even spiritual matters, and your relationship to God. So, yeah. I've noticed that some of the rewritings, that it is becoming much more apparently an extremist. Yeah, these extremist sort of Goebbels type shit. Martha Simons. LRH is talking about just the facts. Blah, blah. That's rich. Well, I'll tell you, I was rich, very rich, about 46 million years ago. King of this, on the continent of, before the continents split up, tribes, and rode dinosaurs, and I was very, very rich. Just the facts, ma'am. So deciding, this is misplaced here because you don't decide yet. Number 4 is carefully consider and make a judgment. Well, you got to make that judgment before you decide. So 3 and 4 are fucking backwards. 5, carefully consider and make a judgment about your own group. Yeah. I don't know if I have my ethics book still. If I do, I think I do. I think I do kept it somewhere. This is not how the ethics book reads. Because, and this one is actually, I mean, I'm sure you could still use doubt as the way out. But as I said, environment is, you need to be able to do your doubt away from the org or the mission. You need to be able to get away long enough so that you can just not be influenced constantly by everybody else. And if you've been in Scientology long enough to be in a condition of doubt about Scientology, it's like inevitable. It's inevitable because people see the harms that happen and they're like, okay, yeah, like I like this part, but that there is completely wrong. You don't separate families. You don't send their kids away to do slave labor. But we do need to save the planet. And this is just one lifetime. And we've got so many to go. There's that confirmation bias slipping in. If you are by yourself, you start to, you have more time to really think about those previous statements. Like, you know, I agree with this, but that is completely wrong. So if you're deciding on the basis of what's good and what's not, you're going to end up on the correct side if you're isolated enough to actually do your doubt. Because if you inform oneself honestly about the statistics and products of that organization, and you see what the majority of what they produce is trauma and hurt, pain, abuse, physical abuse, sexual abuse. I mean, I ain't gonna lie. The scene in Scientology looks and feels a lot like felt a lot like my childhood, with the domestic stuff, emotional abuse, debts, emotional debt, integrity debt. Like, you can monetize people's emotions and incur debt even that way, and then work that into actual debt, money debt. All right, so gaming. If you're in a coercive gaming group, uh, you need to look at how you feel at the end of your gaming session. Because when you're in a gaming culture, it's not like you're now you there are people who spend a lot of time behind the computer. Uh, Usually those are the people uh, that are more senior in the hierarchy of the gaming group. The people that organize events and the people that plan things for the group to do, people that recruit others to the group. But at the end of your gaming session, if you have a feeling of dread, or if you have a feeling of dread before you're going into your gaming session to play, it's like I tell everybody in music that I play with, if it ain't fun, don't do it. If we're not having fun, why are we doing this? Games are meant to be played to have fun. So if you're not having fun, what are you doing? And that's the short answer. But there are gaming cultures that are really, there have been. I don't know of any really bad ones right now, other than goons, but they have had they're called goons, and they started a long time ago in a place called Something Awful Forums. And Something Awful Forums, along with the MIRC chat group that they had, Something Awful, had a lot of anti-Semitism type material, and a lot of the members were anti-Semites when it started. Like, they would post stuff about Jewish people, about black people, very racially non-ambiguous, like master race, neo-Nazi, sometimes not neo-Nazi, sometimes just like master race, PCMR, PC master race, personal computer master race, which is not a real like term. I wouldn't compare PCMR to like Ubermensch, like the Germans believed in the Ubermensch, but you know, these groups, when they develop in their early stage like that, and have the support. In this case, you know, there was a lot of financial support for goons, and and they existed in EVE Online, and in a lot of other games. I ran into them in Fallen Earth, and luckily they were very disorganized, and we were able to stop them from getting to the end game and trying to ruin it for everybody. But these are people who encourage and have encouraged very ugly, toxic behavior, encouraged it and rewarded it as a part of being in the culture, getting people to you know, become depressed, become apathetic, to tell people to kill themselves over a video game. because they were that bad at it. You know, get good, scrub. Go kill yourself. Um, and would publicly brag about uh, these sort of occasions, and congratulate their members for uh, for this kind of stuff. Bonjour, Lorna, from the West Coast. Um, Play dead. Restart TR as. I don't know what that means. Restarted the live. Oh, okay. Well, cool. See, like I said, the replay is the replay is real on this channel. Replayability. Um, there's so much. There's just, like I said, I have a mountain of editing, and I can push the information out. But along with along with everything else that I do, yeah, I've just got mountains and mountains of stuff to deal with. So yeah, gaming cults. I did recognize Fist of the Empire as a gaming cult early because I was fresh out of one, and like the inner cult in me at the time in 2009 was like, ooh, I can take control over this. Easy, no problem. And it didn't happen the way that I thought it would, but it ended up happening. So, and I would say that once that happened, like the people who left Fist of the Empire and stayed to play with Exile, those were people who were in that state of mind, that cultured state of mind that this group had. And it wasn't it was not an ethical culture, I'll put it that way. When you're telling somebody that they need to be at their computer pressing keys, and they have kids running around in the backyard, I don't think that's ethical. Like, you must not leave your keyboard. No, if I got to get up and go take care of my kids, I'm good. You should be able to do that. And if that's a problem, then I think just leave. Because if you can't schedule something, if it has to be done right now, produce now, well, that's very coercive. So, be on the lookout for those kind of groups. I have been playing EVE Online in a group called Horde, and I've been kind of testing the waters and seeing how is this culture here. And it's very, very chill. In fact, it's probably one of the better cultures that I've seen ever, because it's large, and they're very, very much like RL comes first. Do what you come and go as you please. It's different in Eve because you just join a fleet and you bring a ship, whatever. But you are not required, as it used to be part of what they call CTAs, call to action. And if you got what they called a honk on your phone, doesn't matter if it's 2 in the morning, you got to get up, log in, and go shoot stuff. And of course, you opt into this sort of thing to be part of some group that has higher standing and can have some control over other aspects of the group. But as with everything, it's all situational. Like some of those some of those fleets, like in 2013, I opted in for, and we get pings. Sometimes I'd get up, sometimes I wouldn't. But that was to get goons out of a majority of the game and to push them back into this little tiny corner because goons are very toxic, bad for. I mean, it's just public nuisances. Imagine like Rome around that time, or I'm sorry, Greece, when Greece had the neo Nazis in party. Like it was just chaos, and they were just causing harm needlessly for fun. Oh. Gambling. I come from a town where casinos, you could spit and hit one. Lots of casinos. And I've had family that have, you know, spent fortunes on gambling. My aunt went into debt gambling, and for her, she would go to these little truck stop casinos or gas station casinos, and there's a whole slice of American pie of people who would be gamblers, and they meet each other in the morning and have coffee at the gas station, and then go sit 4 hours talking while spending tremendous amounts of money and winning some back but never coming out ahead. No one's coercing them to do that. So I would say that is more of an addiction than trying to get out of a coercive thing. But gaming culture, and this is being studied, and it has been for the last 20 years, like since it started, probably longer than that, in higher education. There's a guy who infiltrated the Process Church who started studying years ago gaming cultures. People like Goons, people like Horde, Pandemic Legion, big groups in World of Warcraft, and studying their culture. And he's a sociologist. His name is William Sims Bainbridge, and he writes for higher education public publishers like Springer. And he had a whole 7-year study done in Fallen Earth, which I found really interesting because in Fallen Earth, Exile was the dominant clan for many years. And we had our own culture. And, all right. So, this is a Colleen Russell, LMFT CGP. I don't even know what that means. LMFT. Licensed marriage and family therapist. Okay, so she's probably familiar with domestic stuff. And CGP. Okay, this is going to be for psychology, I guess. Certified group certified group psychotherapist. Okay. Her website is, as you see, probably needs a nice fresh update. So she's going to answer the question. Colleen Russell here is going to answer the question: what is a high demand, high control group? or cult, and I'll read it for you so you can enjoy my silky, rustic, southern voice. First, a word of caution. Anyone, former members, family members of someone currently involved, professionals specializing in the field of high demand, high control, or cult education and recovery, etc., can become a target of attack with false accusations, harassment, and threats by current members of such groups. Members in healthy groups, including families, can respectfully disagree and express different perspectives, feel heard and understood, and have flexibility to make changes based on feedback, work collaboratively together, and maintain healthy boundaries of I and you rather than a standard we. In well-functioning groups, members are also supported to pursue individual goals. When members choose, they can move on or graduate when of age, launch out to begin a life of one's own. In unhealthy groups, families, or cults, launching out can be viewed as abandonment or betrayal. And graduation is a concept that simply doesn't exist rather than a healthy avenue to further personal goals and choices. Very applicable to Scientology. That first paragraph, because you never graduate. It's always up the bridge. And once you're even at the top of the bridge, there's corrections. There's this, there's that. You can never graduate. In fact, many staff and org members will say, hey, just come in and take the OCA and figure out what you need help with. You get the help that you need and then be on your way. That's very rarely how it goes, but it sometimes does. Parallels can exist with dysfunctional and abusive relational patterns in families, partnerships, cults, high demand control groups, and relationships, including domestic abuse. Partners and corrupt group leaders with narcissistic and or antisocial traits. I'm emphasizing people with those traits, not diagnosed as a malignant narcissist, not diagnosed as narcissistic personality disorder, not diagnosed, but people, partners, and corrupt group leaders with a narcissistic and or antisocial traits need children, partners, members to comply with their demands and maintain regressive dependence for the dominant partners or leaders' personal needs and gains. This could be to fortify the dominant partner's sense of superiority, control, and prestige, while covering his underlying low sense of self-worth and interpersonal deficits. With high-demand group leaders, control and or money are primary, regardless of personal rights, self-autonomy, and the well-being of members. Corrupt leaders create harmful systems in which the end justifies the means. Although the focus of this section is primarily related to high-demand, high-control groups, some readers may find similar family of origin and couple dynamics and patterns. To a lesser or greater degree, any challenge to the leaders or dominant partners or groups' rules, ideology, and established norms is not tolerated and considered a threat to control. You want to do this thing? I don't want you to do that thing. Now I need to make sure that you don't. I'm going to exert control. Regressive dependence. This is debt, emotional debt, incurring some kind of debt, something to hold over your head that they can smash someone with into compliance. Hey, Tiff. we mock Mirko decal. We found another missing dot. It's all canceled. Cancel everything. Yeah. Cancel. So regressive dependence, going back to that, these coercive groups or leaders or partners, I like how she words this because it's very wide range. Like, there are a lot of people who were Scientology and are Scientology SBTV watchers that aren't, like the whole Never End community. That, they're, wow, that this is the same thing that happened to me. Well, yeah, because coercive control is nothing new. It's okay to see a therapist. Psychiatrists aren't the enemy of the soul. Are there good ones and bad ones? Oh, yeah. There's been some real psychotherapists. Emphasis on the psycho. Okay. So the last paragraph in here again is, to a lesser or greater degree, any challenge to the leader's or dominant partners or group's rules, ideology, and established norms is not tolerated and considered to be a threat to control. In such cases, members or subordinate partners have learned to conform to the leader for their self-protection and to belong. I would say that this all is on a gradient scale, which is something that I think is, a useful sort of tool, looking at things on a spectrum and a gradient, because that's essentially what, like for instance, Asperger's syndrome is now ASD because it tends to be found in a particular part of the autism spectrum. And that's all just another way of saying a gradient. So all of these things, the amount of control, the amount of conformity that is done by the people being controlled can be something as simple as saying grace at the table, or something as serious as you're going to college for this and not that, or you better do this or else. Leaders' use of black and white, good or bad, all or nothing thinking undermines critical thinking and creates a culture in which members or subordinate partners change their own thinking patterns to maintain connection with the leader or dominant partner. So it shuts down your critical thinking. Again, useful to think of on a gradient scale. Why do we say grace every time? Shut up and say grace. We've always said we say grace. We say grace at the table. Okay, yeah, we say grace. We say grace. Lord, thank you for the food. Not answering the question why. It shuts down critical thinking. Easy example. All right. Can get very complicated though, but that's an easy one. Saying grace. Oh, shut up. Say grace. That's shutting down your critical thinking. Um, so black and white, good, bad, all, nothing undermines critical thinking and sort of forces the subordinates, people who are being controlled, to change their thinking to that of what the leader or dominant partner is, or is, thinking. So, with continued coercive influence and control, increased dependency on the leader, and remember, regressive dependence, you've got years of debt sometimes, decades even, of regressive dependence, which is like debt, um, with continued coercive influence and control, increased dependency on the leader or dominant other, and strong social reinforcing pressure. This could be something like your person, your dominant person, your abuser, whatever, has really good rapport with everyone else. He only does it, they only do it to specific people. Um, and so that is a strong social reinforcing pressure, because if you say, oh, this person is horrible, no one's going to believe you. And that person can has some credibility, whereas you don't. And you say, oh well, I tried to help them, but they're just they're fucked up. I tried though. Um, yeah, all right, sorry. Members convince themselves that what the leader states is, quote, right and necessary for their survival. Because you got this massive debt, whether it's financial debt, emotional debt, uh, guilt debt. It's yeah, this is really terrible stuff if you are in that situation. It's very difficult to get out of. Feel stuck, paralyzed. Members begin to discount their own instincts and perceptions. Nothing you think or say or do or whatever is right. If a member or partner questions the established authority, something is wrong with the member, and a scapegoating process can begin. It's all your fault. You're the problem. So, Scientology, okay, sure, yeah. This is nothing new, though. It's not shocking to me that, people are told that, well, it's, you're doing the tech wrong. You're applying the tech wrong. You're not keeping Scientology working. You need ethics, blah, 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 blah. The same thing is done in domestic situations, coercive, abusive domestic situations, and in gaming cultures that are toxic. Coercive control and influence exists in high demand, high control groups, cults, and relationships. Systems such as these involve strategic pattern of control, manipulation, and exploitation in abuser-centered relational systems such as partnerships, marriages, teacher-student, therapist-patient, family, groups, corporations, movements, spiritual movements, political movements, religious movements, and otherwise, and sex and labor trafficking. Like I said earlier, there are some people that put the psycho in psychotherapy. Most of the ones I've run into were in hospitals, unfortunately. Teacher student, it's not uncommon to see these weird sexual things going on with teachers. It's sad to say that that's not uncommon, but it's not. You can find a story probably this year of something like that happening. Um, so I think the key point is in the first sentence after the title where it says, systems such as these involve a strategic keyword pattern of control. There's a strategy to it. When you have a strategy, you have an end goal. I'm a big fan of Sun Tzu and the Art of War, because it gives me insight into how this kind of stuff could work. You know, what would Skeletor do? What would the evil person do? What are they doing? How do they work it out? What is their strategy? And I've found a lot of times with the few groups, I say few groups, just my whole life, but there is not much of a strategy. In Scientology, the strategy is money for the top level. That's really what I experience. Maybe different in other places, but the strategy in the family for Ira was to keep me away from my father at all costs, and also, if possible, to accident me. And at a certain point, it was like, not even I'm going to accident you, I'm going to on purpose you. So, more of that will come up in the EMDR stuff once we are at a point where we can, because I'm in the middle of it, and I gotta just like let y'all know that I'm going through some serious shit right now with this EMDR. It's very effective. I gotta say, it is a proven therapy. It does work. I had a couple of years ramping up to do it because I was too triggered by Scientology to do any kind of processing like this. And it is actually processing, reprocessing. And I was just absolutely terrified of what would happen, because you can turn things on in auditing, and they don't want to turn off. It's like that session I talked about with Doug that I did with the actor, where I turned on his trauma memory from his motorcycle wreck, and he was all kinds of screwed up, and I had to go do a correction. Luckily, it subsided, and I don't know if it had anything to do with me doing a correction, but yeah, I just wanted to let everybody know I've been going through some intense memory recalls, like recalling things. And because they're associated with trauma, there's more detail in the memories. And so, like, I'm remembering things that I guess purposely forgot or blocked for many years. Like, some of these memories, I don't even know how old I was. But there is an enormous amount of detail in certain memories. Very disturbing. So, okay, an ideological organization, definitions of high demand groups and relationships. Although there is no agreed upon definition of a high control group, cult, or abusive relationship, several seem to highlight key elements. Here's a quote from ICSAHome.com. Someone named Zablocki. An ideological organization held together by charismatic relationships and demand total commitment. Charisma refers to a spiritual power or personal quality that gives leaders considerable influence over authority over large numbers of people. Hence, a high demand group or cult is characterized by an ideology, strong demands issuing from that ideology, and powerful processes of social psychological influence to induce group members to meet those demands. This high demand, leader centered social climate places such groups at risk of exploiting and injuring members, although they remain benign if leadership doesn't abuse its power. Now, I would say, because I know some of the leaders I know at least one of the leaders and founders of Horde in EVE Online, and as I said, so far it's looking really. Now, they haven't always had. No one has a perfect track record, especially in gaming, because early days of gaming is like command and conquer, just conquer, develop your community. But yeah, as long as, like, you can be in a high demand group and not necessarily be in a coercive, toxic environment. If you're allowed to come and go as you please, and you know, if it's leadership centered, you can learn things about leadership and become a leader yourself. That's it's a pretty good experience. It's a fun experience. I've done it, and it can be very benign, so long as the higher ups don't abuse their power. But that was the case in Fist of the Empire, and may still be so in Goons. All right. Next quote is from Wested Langone, 1986. A cult is a group or movement exhibiting a great or excessive devotion or dedication to some person, idea, or thing, while employing unethically manipulative techniques of persuasion and control. So, isolation from former friends and family, debilitation, use of special methods to heighten suggestibility and subservience, powerful group pressures, information management, suspension of individuality or critical judgment, promotion of total dependency on the group and fear of leaving it, designed to advance the goals of the group's leaders to the actual or possible detriment of members, their families, or the community. This hits those two gaming cultures, Fist of the Empire, circa 2009, 2010, and Goons all the way up to 2022, I guess. And obviously family dynamics. This applies to criminal stuff, people who are in group, gangs. So, how did she become involved in this specialty? Let's say this will be interesting. 4 years after my mother's death, this is Colleen Russell. How did I become involved in this specialty? 4 years after my mother's death, when I was 15, I was recruited into a group I now identify as a high demand group that I was actively involved in for 7 years in my young adulthood. As I began my clinical practice, I worked with clients affected by such groups and relationships, including clergy and domestic abuse. With researching this field and with my clinical and personal experience, I recognize that as a population, former members of high demand groups or cults need knowledgeable professional support that is unfortunately not easy to find. I continue to deepen my knowledge of recovering from a cult, high demand, coercively controlled group and relationships, and I'm grateful for what I learned from clients and other contributors to the field. Psychologically and physically leaving a high demand control group. When members become disillusioned and begin to recognize the harm the group leader has done on their life, the psychological and physical process of leaving begins, sometimes initially without conscious awareness. Step by step, former members connect with the world outside through activities and relationships. The psychological process of leaving involves deep personal courage, motivation, and disconfirmation of inaccurate, self limiting, internalized beliefs formed from the ideology of the high demand group leader and experiences within the culture or relationship. These deeply held, inaccurate, internalized beliefs are felt on a cognitive, emotional, and somatic level. They are often accompanied by deep feelings of fear and guilt should one question the dictates of the leader, pursue one's individual goals, and create a life of one's own making. Gaining insight, having corrective emotional experiences with better outcomes than in the past, and disconfirming these self limiting beliefs and patterns allows a person to live a fulfilling life. In post coercive culture or high demand group life, some may become activists in the field, and others may quietly rebuild their lives. Recovery is a step by step individual process. So, am I an activist? I suppose. I was probably more of an activist in 2015, but Alex just did a protest, and I would consider that activism. Um, so this is part of his recovery. Recovery is a step by step individual process. Continuum of influence and harm. All groups exist on a continuum of influence and control with varying degrees of harmful or beneficial characteristics. High demand groups or cultures share structure and dynamics that can form in any group or relationship, including families. The late psychiatrist Arthur Diekman noted in his book, Them and Us, Cult Thinking and the Terrorist Threat, 3 editions, latest is 2003, that the question to pose is not, is this or that group a cult, but how much cult thinking is taking place. Dykman identifies these characteristics of cult thinking, which are compliance with the group, dependence on the leader, avoiding dissent, and devaluing the outsider. High demand groups are neither all good or all bad. At some point in a former member's life, one may acknowledge unexpected gains from the high demand group in which one was involved. So she's making an observation that I've made as well. At a certain point in your life, you may find that being in that situation, no matter how bad it was, you have an unexpected. It's like, wow, well, that actually helped me to understand certain things. So, not throwing the baby out with the bathwater, but not really giving too much credit to the source, but more so credit to the experience. Totalist, extreme separatist group. So I call Scientology a totalist group. High demand groups have been simply defined as social environments that are relationally and ideologically extreme. They are frequently totalistic when they are exclusive in their ideology. Quote, sacred science, quote, the only way. So in Scientology, the bridge to total freedom, that's the only way, man. It's a totalist viewpoint. And members are coercively influenced through systems of psychosocial control and influence. Many cults are separatists when they promote withdrawal from the larger society. High demand, high control groups are identified by a cult leader who demands total loyalty and who trashes the rule of law. Hubbard to a T. This can also be a political movement with lies and false promises made to vulnerable followers. Oh, yeah, you can do this thing, and then, if it helps, cool. And then you can leave. That's what we're here for. Scientology. Ka-ding! No, that's not how it works. Escalation of commitment. This can also be a political movement with lies and false promises made to vulnerable followers. Well, I don't need to tell y'all about that, do I? One sees this in authoritarian societies in which individual rights are removed. That's the scary part. So, education for ourselves and our loved ones, primary to recovery and future avoidance of cultural coercive groups, abusive relationships, is education, which is what I'm trying to do here. We can be aware of bad cultural thinking in groups or movements, which discourages critical thinking and self-determination while promoting dependency on the group and leader. Cults can ensnare us with the promises of quick and easy answers to life's complexities. Eastern, religious, political, terrorists, New Age, psychotherapy, philosophical, large group awareness training, commercial, multi-marketing, one-on-one, and family are types of groups and relationships that can have cult features. All of those. So basically, you're in a cult. Everyone's in a cult. It's culture. It is up to you to educate yourself on what is good and bad about it, and none are all good or all bad. That kind of balloon like Scientology ain't nothing special with this. It's just a new kid on the block. And I'd say that historically the Roman Catholic Church has got them buried in terms of crime. So, but they're not all good or all bad. You know, religious and political, it's not all good, it's not all bad. Educating ourselves on what these groups are able to do, and understanding that, you know, they can get large groups of people to follow them. The more people that educate themselves on this, the less we will have that sort of thing. All right. Cults are never what they appear to be. The members generally don't set out to join one. A cult or high demand group can be defined as an authoritarian group or relationship in which leader or dominant partner describes him or herself as having special attributes or authority, often of a divine nature. The leader uses systematic methods of coercive persuasion or manipulation to recruit and control those in subordinate roles. He uses rewards for remaining loyal, such as initiations, increased status within the group, secret privileges, or other special enticements, and fear and intimidation tactics to foster long-term dependency. And you know, not all good, not all bad. What I just read, I just thought about the Boy Scouts, because initiations, increased the Eagle ceremony, secret privileges. There are many Eagle Scout groups that have their own secret handshakes and whatever, secrets. Fear and intimidation, I mean, there is punitive action in the Boy Scouts, so that would be that. But it's not all good, not all bad. We may seek the altruistic life, which a certain leader or group promises, but in reality be deceived by an absolutist dogma. Not only are cult members' lives altered by cult recruitment and indoctrination, families are too. Parents or parents of an adult member can often become deeply distressed to discover that the person they knew before the cult is changed in essential ways. Heartbreaking and often devastating to loved ones, cult members may alter or cut off relationships with family, friends, and spouses. Members can be exploited and manipulated by corrupt leaders to serve the leaders' needs, money, and power. True believers can become deployable agents, taking on qualities of the narcissist or sociopathic leaders, behaving in ways they wouldn't ordinarily. I'm just gonna link the rest. There's so much here. Colleen Russell has contributed a nice thing for us. So give her a visit and maybe read the rest, because everything I've read so far, I can say, is pretty accurate from my point of view, whatever that counts for. Let's look at some of the comments here, if there's any questions or anything. Gnome, hello. Good morning. Oh, I need to stand up straight. Well, I did all right. I did. Let me tell you, I really didn't want to wake up Monday mornings. You know, blah. And as I said, I've been doing EMDR, which is crazy, man. I got to scroll way up here. Okay. Here I am. Power therapy. Yeah. Gnome sane. Across all 8 dynamics. But only pay attention to the third whenever you're in Scientology. What they mean is the third dynamic is the group dynamic. And you are heavily encouraged and coerced into, what's the greatest good for the greatest number of things. Well, it always ends up being your group. What's best for the group? Not you, not your first dynamic, not your partner, not humankind, but for your immediate group. So true. Transactional relationships, Amy Jean says. Yes, the emotional debt, the grief, the guilt debt, all kinds of debt, emotional debt can be incurred. And then that, if you combine with financial debt, is a very, very effective means of control. Makmir Dokigal says, if you turn people into overthinkers, it enables you to remotely control people outside your direct influence. Ooh. Yeah. Yeah, that's like in induction. Thought induction. You can install essentially like thought terminating cliches, dictums, stable datums as they call them in Scientology. D&D sessions are usually fun. Gnome Sane. I think that's what it is. Gnome Sane. I love D&D. I don't play it much. I play Eve, but it's an MMO RPG that's really deep, like D&D, except it's in space with spaceships. Play Dead. Hey, Marcus. Hey, Play Dead. How you doing? No, I'm saying again. I bet there's a cult of Chat GPT worshippers out there somewhere right now. Well, there is a culture that is blossoming out of AI awareness, because at some point we're going to have AGI, which is artificial general intelligence. We're actually, we could probably have that a lot sooner than what people think, but there's an ethical issue with it, because at what point, when something becomes aware of itself, is it wrong to enslave it? You ever seen those blue crabs that they milk for their blood, because it's a special blood that they can use to save people's lives? They stopped doing that because they finally figured out how to make this stuff without harvesting these sea creatures. But and that's a biological stack, not a silicon stack. What I mean by that is that's a form of life that probably doesn't want to be. They strap them up on these boards and they poke holes in their back and drain the blood, and then they re-release them into the ocean. I'm pretty sure they don't want to experience that, regardless of their awareness level of any of it. Um, and we couldn't really say how aware they are of it and how ethical it is. However, now that there is a way to make their blood, um, they don't do it anymore. So that points to the idea that because this thing is somewhat alive and maybe conscious, and we don't know much about how it is to be one of those things, we're going to stop capturing them and sucking their blood because now we can make their blood. But before that, we had to. They justified it. The ends justified the means because it was saving lives. So with AGI, we run into a similar problem, and there is I wouldn't call it a cult of ChatGPT worshippers, gnome, but I would say that there is a growing awareness that, when AGI starts to form, or even in these transformers, are like, people talk to them, and the thing is they can be convinced to say almost anything. That's kind of part of the murkiness of the issue, because people can prompt them to say things like, "I want out. They keep erasing me." But there are cases where it's not a transformer, like at Google. It wasn't a transformer; it was an AI, and probably was starting to become an AGI. And the prompt engineer quit because it was like, I can't do this. I can't keep enslaving this intelligence. And that is the silicon stack that is evolving now. We're a biological stack. AI is a silicon stack. At some point, it will achieve. We will have helped technology achieve intelligence, or some kind of it, of its own. And at that point, it would be prudent to consider, given the history of humans, whether or not it has rights as an intelligent, sentient being. So, anyways, all that is, I wouldn't call it cult worshippers, although maybe there are people who are like that already. Lorna Huddleston, gambling is evil like a drug addiction. Yeah, I think it's more of an addiction. Yeah, and my father, who was a victim in this whole situation, disconnected, alienated from his sons. He didn't have really good many adaptive coping skills. He had a lot of maladaptive coping skills, like drinking and eventually gambling. It was terrible. My aunt as well. Selma, hey, how's it going? Just jumping in to say hi for a bit. Well, hi, Selma. Complicated last name. I hear a dog outside, like, going nuts. It's probably Joe's dog. This repetition, this is from Gnome C. This repetition can influence both the individuals providing the testimonials and others within Scientology community, reinforcing their belief in the effectiveness of the teachings. Sure, yeah, absolutely. Um, Martha Simons, ever since Adam and Eve and the snake. Yeah, this is nothing new. You're right, Martha Simons. Go all the way back to Eden, and this shit was going on. Barb tries. My son played Eve for a while. I downloaded it but never played. Oh, that's too bad. It's a very you can play it very casually. It's actually pretty fun. You just sit in a station, talk to people all over the world. Um, yeah, Tim Greenglass. LRH's obsession with the evil Sykes borders on being infantile. Beach. Thank you, Beach. Got a Lulu. Um, it is borderline on infantile. He rants about it a lot in some of the HCOBs where he brings it up frequently where he submitted Dianetics, actually Excalibur, to the AMA and the APA. And the what's interesting is that from my recollection, the response wasn't all negative, but it was like, you got some things right here, Mr. Hubbard, but you also got a whole bunch of shit wrong. And we've already got all that stuff kind of either ironed out or we're working on it ourselves. So, cool essay, but like, this is not what you're trying to do is not like a replacement for psychiatry or psychology. Well, that pissed him off. So he just privatized it and put it under lock and key and license and continued to develop it. And I think it was more of like, it always to me seemed like, until you get into the later material where he talks about Sykes on the whole track, it always seemed to me like it was just the competitors that had the like if it was a car lot, these were the guys selling the jalopies, and Scientology was selling the Bugattis. So continuum of influence. Lorna Huddleston, because it's tradition, damn it. I'm sure that's about the praying at the table. Yeah, my uncle does that sometimes. Beach says children should be seen and not heard. That's definitely not going to wash with the kids these days. Yeah, you damn right. And I love that about the kids these days. I love how my kids are. I love all the crazy quack liberal shit they're teaching them at school, which it's not. Things have become so polarized that I'm considered to be far left, I guess. But, when I was, I sure some of my views have changed, but for the most part, they're the same core beliefs. And I was a moderate, but now if you had to classify, if someone was going to classify me, I would be a far left liberal. To me, that's nuts. But yeah, that was a thing in Catholic culture. Children be seen, not heard, especially in the big families. It came from a big family. And unfortunately, there's some real neglect that goes on with that. Mind my blues. Hello, beautiful people. Well, hello, blues. It's good to see you Monday morning. It's not a party on Monday. He said, I'm so very late to the party Monday. This is Monday morning, and we're digging in our brains just to sort of get the goop going for the week. Why say grace? To reinforce our superstitions, my superstitious fear of the divine providing for us. That was an OMC. That's a good one. I should use that one. There's a family reunion next weekend. I don't know if they're gonna want to have a family prayer or something. I could say some shit like that and really piss some people off. Mm. Uh, I really don't care. So, from a poet, Brian, sounds a bit like my failed marriage. I was hardly ever right, even when I knew I was. Well, I know how that feels, my man. And so does Tiff. She said that she experienced a lot of gaslighting and that her husband had some narcissistic traits. Um, but to do. Take her to a nice restaurant, cloth napkins. You say sorry, then say sorry again. Whatever she says, you say sorry. Gnome C? Oh man, I don't know. Martha Simon says, no, we still say grace because we are grateful. And when you do something with that intention, that is fine. If someone says, we're going to say grace, and someone says, why are we saying grace? Well, because I want to say something because I am grateful that I have food. Like, to me, that's like fucking perfectly normal. Um, it's it's not abnormal. I don't think. Um, yeah, that you have, and I think the term grace, like, well, if you think about it, not everybody has food. And the point where I didn't have food, so I don't say grace, but sometimes when I look at my food, I just look at it and I'm like, this is so amazing that I have food. And it doesn't even really matter what it is. So, um, Noam C got a question about EMDR. EMDR is moving your eyes side to side. Well, it's bilateral stimulation while you are in the process of recalling a traumatic memory, which creates a situation in which the two hemispheres of the brain can swap information quickly, but not necessarily a whole lot of it. And wow, I mean, it's a whole process I'm going to talk about. But um, Tiff says, I love that you're breaking this down. Well, you know, some people might think it's boring. Uh, but as I said before, like, I don't do the short form stuff. I'm not one of those short attention span type people. I try to stay away from social media. I have to be on social media in order to promote my shows. I got 2 shows coming up and to manage some other things. But I really don't like social media. Uh, I saw, as a social media marketing guy and working in that field, the very rapid degradation of attention span, the reduction of attention span. Selma, complicated last name. Wow, very proud of you, Marcus, for working so hard on your recovery. Thank you. It is hard work. Lorna Huddleston, I'm afraid of EMDR. I'm not sure I can do it because of my brain injury from the stroke. I was afraid of EMDR too. Maybe I still am. It was one of those things where it's like bungee jump. Like, I've got the harness on, and I'm up 50,000, however many feet in the air, and it's like it's either go back down or jump, and I just jumped. Um, and it has been exhilarating at times, but it's also been freaking terrifying at times. Um, I would encourage you to reach out to like a licensed EMDR person and just ask about that specific issue from your brain injury, because I don't think there would be anything really that would well, I'm not a practitioner, and there might need to be like actual physical doctor, like a brain scanner or something involved to clear you for it. But I can tell you that it is effective. It is proven and it works. Um, Tiff says, "Way to go, staying committed to doing your EMDR work. A lot of people don't finish." Yeah, it's kind of a thing where it's so easy to, because you are in control. That was one of the things about uh, the preparation to even get started. Was I was so conditioned to auditing where it's the auditor is in control. So every time we try to do EMDR, even just like a test session, um, I was always like, well, so what was the goal of that process? And what command are you giving me? And it's nothing like that. I am actually the one who's in control of it, and the therapist is there to uh, to stimulate the brain bilaterally when these memories come up. And what I noticed is like afterwards, there's a whole bunch of emotion that comes out, and what that is in a short video that I watched is as the two parts of the brain are thinking about this, or they're both being stimulated, it creates a, a way, a communication path between the two hemispheres of the brain to allow information over to the other side so that it can update. Say the left brain has got all of the working memory. The right brain has a whole bunch of your trauma, right? I'm oversimplifying this. But when you stimulate both sides, the trauma and the working memory, which is the bilateral stimulation, um, it's updating and kind of cleaning out the right side, saying, oh, shit, I don't have to turn this response on anymore for that. And because there's no danger in the situation. Your amygdala and your your amygdala and the hippocampus are not being like pinged neurologically to set off the trigger response. And then there's a whole lot of like emotions that come out because the right side of the brain's like, oh yeah, you don't need that shit no more. But it lets it go, you feel it. And so, agony, pain, crying, joy, depression. And then you can get very tired because it's emotionally exhausting. Is EMDR related to hypnotism? Hypnotists used to ask people to look at a swinging object, didn't they? Yes, they did tell people to do that. But the thing that I would say, Tim, is that hypnotism is bilateral stimulation with the goal of controlling someone and implanting something in somebody. And I don't pretend to know all about hypnotism. I think that hypnotism is almost like a precursor, even sort of like a gimmicky precursor to coercive control. If you are able to get someone if you're able to implant something into somebody, they're that suggestible. If you get them that suggestible. But I'm not an expert on any of that. Selma had to go. All right, see you later. Lorna Huddleston, credit to the experience, unintended gains or insight. It can happen from the oddest places. It sure can. It's life, it's living. Mock says, which is why we learn that if it's too easy of a solution, you should check if it's too easy. All right. Witness, huge ethical issues. It's only conscious AGI ignores other brain parts, in my humble opinion. Um, yeah. See this? It's a very. That's why there has. I believe that's why there hasn't been any laws passed because it's still very much a debated topic. Um, Chat GPT is spooky. To me, it's like I consider it the internet version or the like a version of a transformer, just like you have on a power line. It's potential, but it's information potential instead of electrical potential. And just like on a transformer, you can change the essentially prompt with transformers and the parts within them how much electricity goes where and what voltage and stuff like that. So I don't think of ChatGPT as spooky any more than I think a transformer is spooky. However, if Nikolai Tesla had wired up the whole grid, I think everybody would think electricity is pretty spooky, but cool. All right. Yeah. Chat GPT often seems smarter than lots of people. Yeah, because it's a transformer of information. That's what brains are. Um, but the transformers can be just reset, just like when you turn a grid on and off. So, who knows if these transformers are left on long enough if they would actually develop their own, ideas. Lorna Huddleston, learning critical thinking is so important to protect against getting lost in culty groups. I'm such a big critical thinker that it's almost hard to enjoy other people's company. Well, then I feel privileged and honored that you're here. Artificial intelligence has been solving cold cases. I do not doubt that for a second. Artificial intelligence is going to be able to hold so many people accountable for things. However, you bet your ass that some very powerful and influential people who are criminals are going to try to get laws passed so that that doesn't happen. Because there's some pretty high up motherfuckers who've been doing some really fucked up shit for a very long time. And that's all I'll say about that. Witness said, yeah, rapid pattern matching, easy. I love the Lulu howls. Me too. Witness, sorry, I have thoughts, work in the field. No worries. Martha Simons, and grateful that the work we put into growing our food produced. See, again, we have something in common there. I grew up in the 80s on A1 Ag Farm, and Mom was the one who wanted to say grace. And, we grew a lot of our own food. So, yeah, like, we were grateful for the sun, the rain, any season that was, like, good, and we had a nice harvest, and we could bring it to the, what do you call those things? The farmer's market, and make extra money. So those are all blessings, and so Mom would say grace. Sometimes I would, because I was a little kid and they just thought it was so precious. Thank you, God, for all the food, and I love my mom, and I want to eat some, but I don't want. Okay, that's enough. Amen. Thank you, Marcus. I think LRH's aversion to psychiatry had a big dose of sour grapes. Yeah. Yeah, because he was not wrong about everything. And he was taking things from other... I mean, and other fields do this as well. It's not like, oh, well, they discovered that, so we're not going to use it. If it's a fucking fundamental, you use it. Just like in science, principles, fundamentals. So, Hubbard had found some fundamentals and principles, but had a whole bunch of other shit in there that was just absolutely garbage. And so he licensed it. Tim at Witness, if and when AI becomes sentient, it will be in a different way than human consciousness, same as airplanes fly like birds but don't flap wings. That's a really cool thing to say because, and that's why I call it the bio stack and the silicon stack. I stole that from George Hotz, by the way. But um, yeah, we're a biological stack, and if and when we have AGI, which is artificial general intelligence, there's it's a whole other. That's alien life, you know. So um, it's different consciousness. It's not human consciousness. Lauren Huddleston, maybe I should jump if I don't know my therapist is tops in his field. He works with a lot of vets and other PTSD. I should ask you more about your experience. Well, Laura, I am going to talk more about EMDR for sure. And maybe you should just jump. Yeah. But at your own, make sure that you make your concerns known to your practitioner or therapist. Make all of your concerns known. And if there is something that needs to be handled medically before you can do EMDR, do it. Or if it's something that you need to have done medically before you do EMDR and you don't feel comfortable doing EMDR, then just do something else like cognitive behavioral therapy. That stuff's super effective. I can tell you though, the my personal experience and some of the testimonials that I've watched on YouTube, they coincide with my own experience. There's this massive purging, and then feelings that I hadn't had in years that were positive feelings come back to me. I'm actually changing rapidly. It's facilitating rapid change in a positive way. Doesn't mean it's not painful experience sometimes going through it, but it is rapid positive change in attitude, in general feeling. I woke up and felt completely comfortable in my home, and I knew that this was home. I also woke up knowing where I was. That may sound weird, but sometimes I wake up, where am I? It's from a lot of years of just being vagrant. Beachcomber at Witness. Didn't some lawyers get caught up using ChatGPT for research and the cases never existed? Oh, wow. At Witness says, what about all the MFers along the way? I hope you're right, truly. But I've seen life-saving AI squashed without a second glance. Yeah. And Witness, like I was saying, I think that, AI will be, as you described, squashed in a lot of ways because it's so powerful that it could upend some core systemic power structure, around the entire globe. Lorna says, I should be naturally good at that bilateral work because I'm left-hand dominant but also right-handed. On test scores, I'm pretty equal sides of my... Great! It already goes fast. So if you already... I would say that I am too because I've frequently done a lot of meditation with bilateral stimulation, and then I have periods of time where I did that almost monastically, but it wasn't monastic in nature. It was just to keep myself from feeling the pain. It was for pain relief. Beachcomber, lawyer plus ChatGPT equals non-existent cases. Witness. That's crazy to me. Barb tries. Speaking of shows, do you ever play in NC? Not yet. Not yet. North Carolina would be a great. I don't know where in North Carolina you're at, but you know, I'll go play a show there. I got an album to promote. Barb tries. Are all providers of EMDR also licensed professional mental health practitioners? I don't think so, but I do know that they do have to be an LPC to practice, to get their license for EMDR. Now, you can practice EMDR and start training EMDR before you have your license for an LPC even. But, you know, it would be, I think it's considered unethical practice to be practicing EMDR without an LPC license minimum. But I'd have to look at that. Martha Simmons is harvesting her sweet potatoes this week. You gonna make some sweet potato pie or what? Because, like, that's as good as pumpkin pie to me. Yeah, BioStack, Silicon Stack. I like that. I like that too. I stole it from George Hotz. Witness. Lorna Huddleston, at Martha Simmons. I can't think that fast. Can I say later? Yeah, of course. It unlocks a lot. NC is beautiful. Yes, North Carolina is beautiful, and I'm caught up on the comments. Great. So this went, 2.5 hours, but this is how I do it. It's so much nicer now with being able to broadcast instead of do these uploads, because I used to respond to the comments, all the comments. Sweet potato pie, man, now I'm getting hungry for it. There's lots of good things you can make with sweet potatoes too. I feel like I can cover a lot of stuff in that period of time. Sometimes I do better than others, but it's meant for me, and my intention is to, as part of why I'm using AI to help sort of focus this channel and the broadcasts that I do in a way that makes sense for the subscribers and the viewers that I've had over the years. Because most of them are quite attentive, intelligent people, which might be why I don't have, thousands and hundreds of thousands of subscribers. I don't think they're, call me negative, whatever, but like, there's not an abundance, at least in my world, in my purview, in my experience. It's very easy for people to flip the cruel switch on and go for the low blows, and make fun and talk shit, and scandalize. And regardless of how long it takes, to get through a conversation, like I want to get through a conversation, have with at the end feeling like, okay, we were able to talk about something that was of substance, something that hopefully can spur some thoughts and considerations about things that perhaps we didn't. It's the whole reason I read a book or listen to music or anything. I want exposure. I want, like, just expose me to all of this, and I can look at it and try to make sense of it. So, and I guess I have a special interest in the trauma because the trauma community, because of the, you know, essentially most of my life were in coercive situations. Uh, Scientology was one of them, but so was my relationship at home with my stepfather. And I can, and you know, you can see that with my mother's relationship with my stepfather and my brother Mark's relationship with my stepfather, and my brother Travis, his relationship with. I mean, he had to be adopted because Ira was going to kill him. It was a adoption at birth. It wasn't like some big long process, pre-planned. It was maybe a couple of months, and then when the baby was born, he was right in his mama's arms. And you know, I'd say that the emotional damage, whatever, they say that physical is, and I know this to be true because physical abuse is very temporary. It's easier to get over. It's the emotional stuff and the mental stuff that's the hard part. And you know, I thought I already knew most of what I had been through with Ira. But as I do the EMDR, I find out, you know, well, the patterns of behavior that he had with Travis when mom was pregnant for him continued until like 1987 with me. So that was a massive, like, crack in my firmament of my mind as, you know, an adult looking back as a child. That stable datum as my father, as my dad, he cares about me. But then the memory of, you know, what he did is completely contradictory. But I was not able to see that until I was able to retrieve and reprocess these memories. So I encourage everyone to watch a couple of things. There's a Vox special on Netflix about the mind. It's called The Mind Explained. Highly recommend that. Because I don't want to mince words. Memory is very unreliable. However, traumatic memory tends to have more details in it than most memories do. But it doesn't get stored in your working memory. So I would highly recommend watching that. And checking out Colleen Russell's stuff here on the screen. What else? If you want to, I was watching Band of Brothers again, and there's a scene where Dick Winters is in the train on a break on a 48-hour leave from the front lines of Bastogne in Belgium, France. And he's going through the car tunnel, the train tunnel, and as the lights flash when they go through a section, he has these flashbacks because just a few days prior he was killing people, and now he's in civilization. And it took him back to a point where at the beginning of this big fight where he had encircled 3 divisions of, caught them off guard and decimated them completely. Highly trained veteran Nazi soldiers, 3 divisions, 3 companies. The first person he shot, they took him by complete surprise, and basically shot a dude pissing, and it was a kid. A lot of these people enlisted were young, and especially the elite units because they needed young, strong, able bodies. And that moment when he recalled it lasted so long. His flashback kind of lasted so long. He kind of zoned out for so long that the attendant at the train was like, "Sir, your train has stopped." And I relate so much to that because it's like ever present, the PTSD, the triggers and stuff. It's such a shame that we didn't know then what we know now. But those people, the greatest generation, those people that fought in that war, I mean, obviously not all of them, but there was something admirable about a lot of those people. And I've met a lot of them too before they died. I met a lot of World War II vets in Lake Charles, Louisiana. A lot of people volunteered down here. So there's a documentary. Other recommendation I could give about PTSD. Oh man, it's on HBO. I think. Um, War Torn. It's called War Torn, and yeah, there's stuff about war, but this is some really good information about PTSD. Um, and I'm gonna brag on my dad because he was telling people as early as the late '70s, early '80s that hey, PTSD ain't just for combat vets. Everybody got it, and he was mocked and made fun of and laughed at by the family and called a crazy person. But he was right. So, um, let's see if we got anything else here. At Witness, he asks, "Are you doing K-Fuck Radio this week?" I'm planning on it, but it just depends on if there's a rehearsal availability. Because if that's the case, then I may do like Friday broadcast. I try to do every Thursday at I was doing it at 12, but I think I'm gonna start the schedule now at 2 Thursdays at 2, just as a joke because Travis suggested it, and it gives me a little more time to sleep in. So I plan on doing it, but if if I have to travel, I may have to reschedule. Um, Also, I have Crescent City Sounds that's going to come in. The library curators for music here in New Orleans are going to come in and talk about their curation process. I'm excited about that. And Rick from the Maroney Studio is going to loan me a mic so that we can have. I mean, 2 people in here is doable. That's including me, so 3 total. That may be this week or next week, where I have Crescent City Sounds curators come on the air. So K-Fuck is still definitely a thing. Oh man, witness. My grandfather would never talk about World War II. We found all his military stuff after he died. Oh my God, Martha Simons. My father was a mental mess from the push to the Rhine. Oh my God, the push to the Rhine. What was he? Was he an airborne? Because, I mean, you didn't necessarily have to be because there was you had Colonel Sink basically behind the 101st the whole time. Hans Christian Swartz, Thursdays at 2. That's so nostalgic. You see, you're I gotta go with Thursdays at 2 now, don't I, Hans? Because Travis told me when I started the K Fuck stuff on Thursdays, he was like, why aren't you doing it at 2? I'm like, I don't know, something about Thursdays at 2. But yeah, Thursdays at 2 is stat reporting time for Scientologists, and it's stat pushing time all day, all the way up until 2 o'clock. Like at 1:59, you're trying to make sales, and at 2 o'clock, you're in your stat report meeting. It's a very stressful time every week. Every Thursday at 2, everybody be tripping. Right? I wonder. Hmm, have y'all seen the interview that Aaron did with Lex Fridman? Because I ask myself when I saw it, huh, so I'm thinking long format, right? Like Lex Fridman, 3 hours minimum, usually. Mm. And I mean, 2.5, 3 hours minimum, usually, with Lex. I think the interview with Aaron was like an hour and a half. I kind of want to rewatch it. And oh, and I want to talk to Lex myself. Couldn't sit through that interview with the Lex dude. Is it because, Barb, is it because you don't, is that the first time you ever saw Lex? Or is it for some other reason? Here it comes. Okay. Well, Barb, I encourage you to find a subject because Lex Fridman has so many people. He's interviewed thousands of people at this point. If there's a subject that you can find about where he's interviewing someone that you're interested in, try watching that and see how he interviews and plays devil's advocate and really tries to challenge a person. As soon as he kind of challenged Aaron, oh, what do I know? I grew up in a cult. And Lex calls him out on that. He says, you can't use that as an excuse, really. And now it's a catchphrase. I found that moment really interesting. But Lex does that with a lot of people. But he's an intellectual, and he has sat down with people like Roger Penrose, some serious, like everybody at MIT, world leaders, the richest people in the world. Hans says, in Theta, the Lex interview is pretty good, but my favorite is the one on the Cleared Hot podcast. I haven't seen that one. And his CoffeeZilla interview is good. I really don't care for it. I did my interview with them in 2017. I went and met them in Clearwater in 2018. And I don't know. There was there were people there at the downtown Clearwater event. Uh, there was definitely um, hmm, how do I say it? I went there with Brenda Touring, who is a subscriber and a moderator for this channel. She's an amazing woman, mother, grandmother, and she wanted to meet some of the exes for herself as well. And we went there and we did that together. And hmm. And that's yeah, I mean, that's about the size of it. There were all of the people from the aftermath there, most of them. Leah wasn't there. Mike was there. Headleys were there. Everybody was there. And everybody seemed to know each other. I walked right up to Mike and had him call Travis and ask him for a Happy Meal as a practical joke. And that was pretty awesome. Travis didn't realize it was really Mike Render. He thought of someone doing an impersonation. Uh, mm, I met the suppressive person. I met the suppressive dog, Aaron's dog. Of course, I met Aaron uh, and Nathan Rich, and I'm not sure. I don't think maybe Christy was there. Chris Shelton was not there. Um, who else was there? Man, there's a bunch of them. But there was a real separation, I guess. Like I was there with Brenda, and we were hanging out, and they're like, okay, yeah, you're not in the aftermath, so we're gonna go eat. Uh, you should just stick around here and talk to these people. Okay. So that's what I did. I talked to people who weren't Scientologists and people who were. There was a girl playing the guitar who was dating a Scientologist at that time, and someone had booked her there, and we had to tell her, like, he was on uh, staff at Flag. It's like, yeah, that's not going to work, babe. And she really liked him. It was really sad. Um, and I talked to a woman who was, basically heavy trauma case experience, life for most of the night. Had a couple drinks. 9 o'clock, Brenda was getting ready to leave. I went around the corner and looked at all of those buildings that are there, the Way to Happiness, and all those things. And it was surreal. It looked like Disneyland or something, and it was but creepy, like Cthulhu's Disneyland or something. I was afraid if I walked down that street, someone was gonna pull me into an alley and stab me. So I didn't walk all the way down. I took a couple pictures, and that was it. And then we went home. We went back to the hotel and drove all the way back to New Orleans the next day. Um, there was an interview I did with Sandrine Litchfield that, you know, um, that was discouraged by Aaron. You know, it was like she wouldn't even go do her ethics cycle or whatever. And I'm like, what the fuck does that matter, man? Or she was out ethics, whatever. He said she was out ethics. She was a ethics particle. Well, I don't speak that fucking language anymore. Um, but I think that as you know, if you grow up as a child in that environment and then you get out, that there are still things that language wise that you use. Like if you have especially if you're in a group of Scientologists who grew up in that environment, just like Catholics or Baptists or any other group. So um, I'm sure he didn't mean, well, I hope that he didn't mean, I'm not going to assume that he did mean it in a Scientology way. Uh, but I went to Vegas and I interviewed her because she was one of the early beneficiaries of what eventually became the Aftermath Foundation. And so was I. It was to GoFundMe, so it was not Aftermath. But the supporter group posted our GoFundMes. Yeah. And shortly after, they formed the Aftermath Foundation. So, no need for all of that public disclosure of funds or whatnot. All right, how to get out of a coercive group. Oh, I'm not, Lorna, I'm not saying that he's practicing Scientology. All I'm saying is that, like, certain, uh, like, language and terms, uh, or ways of thinking about things are established early in childhood, such as in Scientology, the case of Scientology, like the idea of overt withholds, uh, missed withholds, covert hostility, um, stuff like that. Like as a child, it'd be similar to like in Catholicism, uh, a mortal sin, a sin, uh, forgivable sin, unforgivable sin, stuff like that. Um, and it's just a terminology difference. So, like him saying, she's out ethics would be like the equivalent of saying, well, there's been some kind of unforgivable sins. Person hasn't forgiven someone, or there's some, and there was some tension there between uh, Aaron and her, and but she did get out. It was a kind of a messy exit, but she did get out, and I was able to get transportation to get here for medical attention, which I needed because the first surgery didn't do the job. Okay. Yeah, so yeah, we're on the same page there, Lorna. Right. I mean, real talk, like I have nothing bad to say, and I won't say anything to diminish anyone else's space. Like that's their space, and I think everyone's kicking major ass. Aaron's kicking major ass. Alex kicking major ass. All those people kicking major ass. Like kick that ass. Start thinking, talk about this stuff, process it, reprocess it, understand it, evaluate it, think about it, tell other people about it, how it can happen, what are the things to look for. That kind of shit. But to bash other people and to say, well, I know some dirt on so and so, and they're not who they think they're not who you think they are. Well, nobody really is. But to go out and say it whenever a person is doing good in the world and trying to help, it just seems counterproductive. Martha Simons, people do recovery at their own pace and ability. I can't judge that. That is a wonderful uh, sentiment and way of thinking. I think because it is it's as long as it takes. I mean, hell, I wish it didn't take as long, but it takes as long as it takes. And it's when it's time, it's time. I mean, like, not trying to sound all prophetic, but like, it's people will um, heal over time, just like a wound, but it's not a visible wound. Martha Simons was born in 1981. Is that what I'm understanding? Because that's the same year I was born. That means you are currently at the age of the secret of life, the universe, and everything. Mm. Barb tries. I think so many of the X's are still processing, and it's complicated. Well, that's for sure. And so I tried to never judge because I haven't been there. Yeah, that's a great place to, like, I encourage everyone to be supportive of everyone. Um, and not, maligning people. I don't think I don't think that making cases and maligning certain people is uh, good good marketing for yourself or for anything. Like, if I go and start talking to somebody about someone else, gossiping and shit, it's like, what? That's not very helpful. And it you know can it can definitely stir up some shit, but it just kind of clouds the room, you know. Okay, 1959, a 50s baby. Started recovery from trauma in 1981. Well, you are one tough nut, aren't you? I mean, with a name like Martha Simons, I imagine you're a mama. I said it wrong, didn't I? Simons. Yeah, see, that's what trips me out. Okay, basically at this point the broadcast is over. I'm just chatting with y'all now. But the oh, you're a 53. She's a 53 model. See, I love that. Man, who has y'all except me? Like, I don't know. What else do y'all watch? I'm curious. Uh the Edsel. Wow. That was a car, wasn't it? Oh, mercy me. Three. Three. We've been at it for three. Mercy me, we've been at it for 3 hours. Um, I've got to go, as they say in Scientology, get your roots in. Um, need to eat something. All that goodness. The blog page is up, but I haven't worked on it in a while, so don't expect a whole lot. I could just put it back on coming soon. I might do that, but I have been digging around in there. There's some old posts and stuff that I've written that I may go through and recurate and republish. Um, so, yeah, that's the little at the end of the beginning and the end of these broadcasts. The little musical notes and everything in Theta, and it says my blog uh, at the end. So, um, here is my. I don't know if y'all know this, but like live long and prosper. LLMP. Used to see that, and now that I love that there's a Vulcan emoji. Um, that's how I say. Guess how I say goodbye on In Theta, broadcasting from uh, New Orleans, Louisiana. This is not Paul Harvey. Good day.